JRPGs are boring. Or are you just playing them wrong? We're going to be talking about all that and more, but first, coffee. So today's coffee is called Costa Rica Grace Honey. Have a nice good look at those beans. So anyway, the reason I've chosen this topic for today is because recently I've been getting into JRPGs or just action, adventure games that I haven't really been playing a lot of lately, because as you know on this channel, I play a lot of fighting games, and I feel like one of the main things that happens when you start playing fighting games or when you start getting into fighting games a little bit more deeply is that you kind of trick yourself into thinking that really this is the only game that you want to play. That's like, wow, I have all these other games in my library, but when I play them, I'm just not as interested in them as I am in when I'm playing fighting games. And I think it's because you get it in your mind like, I'm on this track to become the fastest runner ever, and then anything that you're doing that isn't contributing to that track of becoming a fast runner, you're like, yeah, but I could be spending time running when instead I'm playing this JRPG instead. But that's not why I got into fighting games in the first place. So it's like, at what point did I start thinking that I wanted to spend my time in this way? I do want to get better at fighting games, but it's like, I actually want to enjoy all the other games that I own as well. It's like, but I boot them up and I'm just not interested in them. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I don't even like RPGs. And then at some point I started thinking, maybe I don't like video games in general. Maybe it's only fighting games that I like. Let's grind! And of course, that can't be true, because I do have my moments where I play games that aren't fighting games, and I go, oh, I'm so glad I took a break from fighting games to play this. Like, oh, this genre is so relaxing, or this genre is so much fun for playing with friends, or wow, this is really making me use my brain in a way that I don't use in fighting games, or maybe in other genres of games. So I'm like, why don't I feel like that anymore? Have I just gone past a point where it's like I don't enjoy video games anymore? Maybe I need to just get into more normal IRL things. I was like, that can't be true. I feel like there was a point when this really started to become clear to me that maybe I'm just playing the game wrong. Because I played fighting games and I would start streaming fighting games and I would start making videos about fighting games on the channel. And so every time I would play them, it was because I had time to make a video or to do a live stream. The time that I actually played games was quite well articulated in my mind. As you just progress through life, the time that you actually have for spending on video games becomes more and more specific. It doesn't always have to disappear. It's not always like, okay, now you just can't play video games at all. You've got no time left. I think you almost always do have the time somewhere. It's just that when you actually get the time, the problem is matching up with being in the mood as well. So sometimes I'm in the mood for a video game, but I don't have a handheld console on me. Or I've got the time to play a game, but all the games that I'm sitting in front of my library, my Steam library or my Switch library or my PS4 library, I'm like, I don't want to play any of these games. And the thing is, it also happens with fighting games. It's not just RPGs, JRPGs, and other genres of games that aren't fighting games. It's fighting games as well. Sometimes look at my entire list of fighting games, I'm like, I don't want to play any of these games. I don't want to get better at fighting games. I don't want to go into ranked mode. I don't want to practice. I don't want to go into training mode and lab combos and situations so that I can actually be prepared for them when I come up against them in a match. It's fighting games as well. Sometimes I just don't want to play them. And so the real issue for me is the mismatch between having time to play and motivation to do it. And it's actually similar with content creation. It's like, I finally have 3 hours free to make a video. I don't want to make anything. I just want to sit around and play video games. So it's almost always that it's like, I've got the time to do this. And it's like, now that I know it's the time to do that, don't want to do it. I want to do anything else. It's like, I've got the time to play games. Yeah, but maybe I'll go and do something else instead. And so it's just this constant avoidance of the thing that is actually the time that you've allocated for. That didn't come out quite right, but you know what I mean. I just remembered I didn't actually boil the water. Oh, one day I'll remember how to do this. So the situation just kept happening to me, basically. And I think it's also to do with the fact that, family increasing in size and just the amount of time that you've got to spend to do things becomes more and more specific. And I just found that I was ending up with these very specific pockets of time, either an hour long or 2 hours long or 3 hours long, whatever it was. There was always the time to play games, but when it would come that time to actually get the controller out and look at my library, I just didn't want to play any of the games that I had available to me. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. I was like, but I used to enjoy these games. I used to enjoy these RPGs. Sometimes it was even fighting games. I didn't even want to play certain fighting games. And I started to realize that I just didn't want to sit in a specific place to play the game, or it's just like the timing isn't working out right for me. And so I set up something called Steam Link, which I'm sure that many of you already utilize on your computers. But Steam Link allows you to have access to your entire Steam library and play it on like any TV in the house, as long as you've got an Apple TV or some kind of device that can stream to it. But the other thing is that Steam Link doesn't require an Apple TV. You can also do it on things like your iPhone or on your iPad or any device that allows Steam Link. I assume that it also works on Android as well. And that is when I finally was able to unlock my love for certain genres of games again. Now that I can play the game anytime I want and have my headphones plugged in. By the way, I feel like the second part of this story is not just Steam Link, but also having AirPods or any kind of wireless earbuds. It means that while you're doing other things, checking out something on TV, or you're making a coffee, or you're cooking something simple, you can also be listening to stuff on your AirPods. And for example, you can also be playing games on Steam Link. Maybe you're just watching the kid fall asleep. It's not super thrilling. Or maybe you're watching TV with the kid and it's a show that the kid has seen 20 times. And as an adult, you don't really need to watch Toy Story 20 times in a row. You kind of understand the story after one watching through it. And so I was often in these situations where it's like, yeah, it's fun to watch TV with the kids, but it's like, why am I watching this show again? I've seen this movie so many times. I don't really need to watch it again. And that's when I found there are times when I could just whip out Steam Link and actually catch up on certain games, especially the ones that are not input heavy, like fighting games. And those games were RPGs. I was like, this is the perfect time to get back into an RPG, because I can play a turn-based RPG that I don't have to be stressed in terms of timing. I can take my time and take my turn whenever it suits me, and I can progress the story whenever it suits me. I can listen to nostalgic Final Fantasy music whenever I want to. And I just found that Steam Link was an important part of that. Also because not only can you just play Steam games, any of your PC games in really good quality, but on your phone, but you can also transform the controller options on your touchscreen. So you don't have to play with a two-handed layout. You can actually just set it up so that the whole thing works one-handed. And so you can be doing stuff with one hand, but you can be playing the game with the other. And just, I could basically, I could do it right now. I could be making this coffee and then with one hand, and I could be playing video games with the other. All right, time to enjoy some of this Costa Rica Grace honey. Who knows what that means? I don't know if they've added honey to the coffee, or maybe that's the name of the person who harvested the beans. I feel like I'm surrounded by mud, and I'm tasting the mud. So of course, this discussion isn't really about how great Steam Link is. It's about the fact that I was finding that video game time was being put into very specific pockets of time. The games that I wanted to play weren't matching up with that particular time zone, as it were. So it's like, okay, it's 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. This is the 2-hour window with which you have to either make a video or play a video game. And do you want to be sitting in front of your PC, or do you want to be downstairs with your family, or do you want to be making a coffee or maybe eating some dessert at the same time? And these were perfect situations where I could be playing RPGs, or especially repetitive tasks like watching Toy Story 2 for the 20th time. Don't get me wrong, really love this movie, but do I really need to watch it 20 times? And the answer is Not really. The benefits of something like Steam Link running on your iPhone are not just that you can do other things at the same time, but also you can just get into the right pose and the right position. It's like, okay, hanging out with my family, but no one's really having a conversation, so I may as well be playing a video game. But the games that I want to play require mouse and keyboard, so I need to be sitting in front of my PC. Maybe I'll play the games that don't require a mouse and keyboard. Games that I can sit back and play one-handed, turn-based, with the touchscreen controls on my iPhone. And a lot of RPGs fit into that category. So for me, what I'm really happy about is discovering that I haven't fallen out of love with certain genres, but that's how it felt for the longest time. Especially when you get into fighting games, you just play too many of them. You start to think, there's nothing else out there that I want to play. And every time I'm playing a game that's not a fighting game, it's not really doing it for me. Actually, my life had become very specific about how I use my time, whether it's streaming or making videos or practicing some fighting game stuff and going online and playing ranked modes. It all became, I don't think the word is regimented, but it became very stuck in its ways. And what I had to do to break out of that was use different platforms. So whether it's having a PlayStation set up on the TV downstairs or having Steam running on my PC and having a good wireless network so that I can actually play on my iPhone or play on my iPad, or sometimes I'm playing on my iPad and I've actually got a DualShock controller plugged in, through Bluetooth into the iPad. So I'm playing it properly, not using touchscreen controls on the iPad. There's so many different patterns with which you can set up your gaming life to actually allow you to enjoy the games that are in your library. So I guess this is also partly a discussion of, the backlog that you have of video games. Games that you bought because they were on sale at the time, games that that are important, games that have a good reputation or a good story that you want to get through, but you never get around to playing them. And it's because video game time tends to be set in its ways. It's like, okay, it's always from 3 to 4 p.m. or 9 till 10 p.m. or 8 till 7. No, sorry, 8 till 7. It's like 8 till 11 a.m. Whatever the time slot is that you're playing. It also comes with like a location, and often if you're getting into PC gaming, that location becomes wherever the PC is. And it just becomes really inflexible. Sometimes I don't want to be sitting in front of my computer with my mouse and my keyboard to play something simple like Persona 4. And the thing about Persona 4 is, like, I thought for a little while, I don't want to play this game. Do I really have time to like set up a date with this character and also check up on this person over here and make sure that I go to this location that day and go exploring and make sure I check all the quests and make sure I don't go over the time periods? Or if I go into an atelier game, it's like, do I really have time to be checking on all the sub quests and making sure that I'm completing this by this specific date, and then also progressing the main story quest and also trying to remember where stuff is because nothing's labeled. It's like, where is Fresher? Where is his shop? I have to remember where that is, and I haven't played this game for like 6 months. I don't know where anything is anymore. I forgot what I was saying. Essentially, these tasks are the game. This is why you bought it. You bought this game because there are all these pointless, mundane tasks, which are basically living a real life, but again, in a video game. And it's not that those tasks are actually pointless and stupid. You bought the game because you want to do those things, but unfortunately, the time that you've chosen to play your video games or the place in your house that you have to be to play those games isn't matching up with these activities. Whereas, if I'm watching Toy Story 2 for the 20th time, and in my right hand I've got my iPhone set up with a one-handed layout for all the controls, I can be kind of watching Toy Story 2 and just watching, what's going on with my family, and also progressing the story in Persona 4, and just double checking the calendar and making sure that I'm on top of things, and you've got to save this person by this date and all that. What had happened was I got into this idea that video games can't fit in my life anymore. The way that my life is set up, who has the time for all this stuff? It's actually, no, wait. This is the reason why I have this game, is to get away from certain things in real life and basically do kind of similar things, but in a video game. And it's completely different when you're doing it in a video game, because then it's like a simulation. Then it's a sandbox. That's a place where you can test things out. Things that you don't want to test out in real life. You don't want to drive like a maniac in real life. That's why I have video games. It's still driving around, but I'm doing things that I don't want to do in real life. That's why I have video games, and that's why video games and simulations are so important. It really allows you to have a sandbox space where you can test things out that you don't want to do in real life. Like, I don't want to build an elevator in real life, but in Minecraft, I'm interested in that sort of thing. I don't want to turn my whole room into an mechanical engineering sort of studio where I'm building crazy things. It's like, I've got video games where I can build buildings. I can do redstone and test out electronic circuits. So there are all sorts of things that you can do in games that you don't have to want to do those same things in real life. I think Persona 4 was when I realized that, okay, this stuff is the same as what you would do in real life, but now that I do those things in real life, do I really have time to do them in a video game as well? It's like, well, yes, but only if you get the situation, if you get your video gaming setup to match your situation. It's like, okay, finally, I've got done with all of my life things like paying bills and driving the car and going places and doing work. It's okay to do those things in a video game as long as I'm allowed to also relax in real life. You know, sit in my favorite chair, or be in that living room, or be in that bedroom, or hang out outside in the garden. Thanks to things like Steam Link or just handheld consoles in general, you can allow games to breathe the way they want to, and also help them fit into your lifestyle. I think the main one really is just being able to make a coffee with one hand and play a video game with the other, or drink a coffee in one hand and play a video game with the other. Fighting games, I think we're not quite there yet, but I would like to see more development in the space of one-handed fighting game controllers, or at least fighting games that you can play with one hand, because, you know, yeah, it's fun to be super competitive and have both hands on the controller and be 100% focused on the match, but I think there's a whole area of video games and fighting games that you could enjoy in a more casual, laid-back way. It's like, okay, we're doing the rock, paper, scissors thing, but it's not quite as intense, and I could just be playing with a one-handed fighting game controller. Maybe it'll be something like the Nintendo Wiimote or something. It's not a super philosophical discussion. Really, it is just something I was thinking of lately, that I felt like I had kind of unlocked the potential of my Steam library. You know, bought all these games. I'd heard that they were good, but whenever it comes down to the 2-hour block of time that I've got, I was like, yeah, but do I really want to start up that game, or do I really want to explore those areas? I don't know, I have to set myself up again, and maybe I'll just go back and do my default thing. And I think that's what it comes down to. When you finally get an hour free of your day, or 2 hours, or 3 hours, it doesn't matter. It seems to not really matter how many hours you have free. You might have 5 straight hours to play video games, but you're like, yeah, but I'm just going to go back to my default. And for a lot of people, especially fighting gamers, I think default is to just go on ranked mode or casual online mode and just play brainless, mindless matches. I don't want to practice. I don't want to think. I just want to be playing a game, and I don't want to think about which game to play, and I don't want to get back into another game that requires any brain work. I'll just do my default thing. And actually, those challenges, using your brain, going through mundane tasks, making sure you do stuff on time, even though those tasks seem quite mundane, it was quite important to me to remember. That's why I bought those games. I wanted to have those virtual experiences, but I had to make sure that it fit me. And Steam Link was definitely the main tool that made that possible. Listen, that's all for me today. It just happens to have about half an hour free while I was making a coffee and wanted to talk to you and chat about how I've been feeling about gaming lately. And I just feel like I've been released back into a zone where I can enjoy the games on my various libraries, you know, games that I've downloaded on PS4 that I don't play, or games on my Steam library that I don't play. It doesn't have to be through Steam Link, but I feel like that's a feature that I wish I had taken advantage of more before. I guess I was afraid of the lag, or maybe couldn't be bothered to have my PC actually set up all the time, but it's really simple to do, to just turn your PC on. If you have Steam set to log in automatically, then it just goes straight into your library and it's ready to do Steam Link anytime. And especially with something like Apple TV, just press the button, wait a few seconds, and boom, you're in the Steam Link app and you're playing the game. And you could be using a proper controller as well, as long as you've got Bluetooth set up. Get yourself set up to be able to play games however you like it. And I think you will find joy in a lot of your library games that you didn't realize that you had just stopped playing. But how about you? Are there any genres that you feel like you used to enjoy that you haven't been able to enjoy lately? Maybe because of your life situation, maybe you just don't have time for them, maybe you don't have the energy, maybe you don't have the motivation, you just can't be bothered, or maybe you've got a default genre that you keep jumping back to, which is preventing you from enjoying the games that you want to get into, or games that you've heard are really good, but you don't have the motivation to actually bring yourself to actually play them. Let me know in the comments section below. I'd love to hear your comments about it. And if you want to chat more about video games, of course, you can join the NihongoGamer Discord. A lot of these games that I've been talking about, I stream them on the Twitch channel, so be sure to follow me over there. Link to that is in the description as well. Until the next NihongoGamer video and or stream, I'll see you around.